Lord has the Lord has done so much in my life in the last 2 years. I guess I've been going to OPCC for a little over 2 years now, and oh man, it all started with just hearing the truth. And so when the first time I actually heard the truth, the first time I came to OPCC, I heard the truth, and I could feel that it was something different. And I couldn't even explain it. And so I kept coming back because I wanted to know what was different, why I liked it. And it was just that I had worked my entire life to find perfection. And I kept failing to find perfection in myself and in my relationship because I wasn't perfect and I was working alone. And so it was just fascinating to hear you preaching about Jesus, the perfect man, the man God. And so it just piqued my interest, and I just got hungry for it, and I just wanted to know more and more. And I just kept coming back, getting filled up. And then I realized, I was like, I just haven't done anything other than go to church. And so I wanted to learn more. I wanted to just learn about Jesus. And so through OPCC, the Lord provided discipleship, and that allowed me to not only get into the Bible, but get into a group of men who would just lead me to understand what I'm reading, to encourage me to create a relationship with God, and to just strengthen me in my faith. Like I couldn't have made nearly as much progress as I did if I hadn't started going to a discipleship group. And I mean, it transformed me. And so I started out just a proud, ignorant guy, seeking something that I really could tell was good. And through discipleship, I got the opportunity to have you walk me through a Kairos moment. And that was, it was hard, but basically I had you ask me a question. I guess we started with fasting, and I didn't want to fast, but I did it once, and it turned into me just getting angry, and I couldn't explain it. And so you had us fast for 4 weeks, and I just didn't tell you that I didn't fast until finally the last week you said, all right, so how are we doing? And I said, I didn't do it. Like, what do you mean you didn't do it? And I was mad, and I just couldn't explain it. And so you just pushed me, and you leaned into me, and you're like, why are you mad? Like, why didn't you talk to me about it? And I just didn't want to talk about it. And so you finally started, like, you just asked. You're asking the questions I needed to have asked. Like, why am I angry? Why am I not okay with not eating? And it led to conversation about, like, me and my dad, and how he had just done a dumb little thing. He said, all right, well, you can't eat. You can't have this. You can't have this. You're too spoiled. You keep doing this. And I just decided to be a spoiled little brat. And I decided I'm going on a hunger strike. And so I stopped eating, and I did it out of anger. And so when I started fasting, it just brought me right back to, like, my anger towards my dad. And then you pressed in more, and you're like, well, why are you angry with your dad? And I was like, because I don't have a good relationship with him because he left. And and I was like, all right, I'm fine with that. And you just kept on pressing in because you could tell I wasn't fine with it. And I just didn't want to talk about it. And the guys around us didn't want me to have to talk about it. And everybody was trying to defend me, but you were fighting for me. And I mean, it's just crazy because you pushed through, and you said, I'll never forget, you said, like, I don't have a relationship with my father because I'm choosing not to create a relationship with him. And you don't have a relationship with your father because he died. And that just broke me. And it sounded awful, and it was just one of those moments that, like, you can never prepare yourself for. You can't say to someone, you should join this because you're gonna get broken down. But it's one of those things where if I had never had that moment, I would have never strengthened my relationship with my dad. That bridge could have been broken for 5 more years, 10 more years, and I don't know. And it was just one of those things that, because I started going to OPCC, because I found you, I was able to grow, like to have a real growth experience. And now I have a good relationship with my dad. And I was doing the math the other day, is a year after I had the conversation with you and discipleship, my dad's coming home, and came home, moved to Kansas, and 2 years after that, he's gonna be a grandfather.
Before we found OPCC, my mom had just passed away in December, and I like to imagine what I did with my mom's death was I put her in a box. I put her in a box. It was my box. I put it in my heart. I didn't let people have it. I didn't talk to people about it. I was very isolated to myself. And one day, Rick was telling me, let's go to church. Let's try this church out. And I said, fine. Like, why not? I have been going to a Methodist church all my life, so I'm like, why not? And just like normal church. And I walked in, and I hated it. I hated it so much. I was not used to the worship music. I was not used to standing on my feet for so long. I hated every minute of it. And when we left, I still hated it. And then we went back the next week, and I hated it less, but I still hated it. And I was really sad because I really wanted to like it because Rick was so excited, and I loved the pastor and everything, but I just couldn't get over standing for 25 minutes and singing songs that I had no idea that always made me cry. But I was like, the Lord wants me to, I knew that I had a feeling that something was happening at OPCC, so I kept going and I kept going. And then the third time I went, and I liked it. I was like, okay, I kind of like the music today. And then I was like, and then the message, I don't remember what the message was, but it was really good. And then I left. When we were about to leave, somebody said, bye, Rick and Brittany. And I said, they know me. They know who I am. And that was the moment where I was like, this is where we need to stay, because they remembered who I was. And it was the third time. And I was like, this is my new home. And which led to fellowship. And so when I had my fellowship with all these different amazing women that were talking to me and leaning in on me, it taught me that box that I've been holding on to was not my box to keep. It was the Lord's box. And I think that moment of realizing that was not my box that I get to keep really changed my direction of my faith. And OPCC let me finally grieve my mom and be able to know that she's in heaven, and I get to not just join the Lord, but I get to see her again. And I think just that knowing of that, just as that is the biggest shift in my life. And I don't think I would be as great of a person without OPCC, because my view would have been about myself and not about the Lord.